Welcome in the latest episode of the Ben and Pitch Soccer Podcast. I'm your host, the real _ G Warner. Tonight's episode, a sick at the real _ G Warner, will be going through the second match day of the 2026 World Cup. We'll have a best bet and ultimate best bet. We are losers in the first match day one episode, unfortunately. A lot of really bad beats, end of matches, unfortunately, over the last couple of days. I think 5 favorites covered on either last kick of the game or at least in stoppage time. So we're going to try to stop that from occurring because that is a bad thing that happens to underdog players, under players, all those sort of things. If you're on the right side of all those, as one of my friends has been, congratulations, Chip. But I got to say, I don't think that's supposed to happen all the time. And the dogs will eventually rise again, and we'll be looking forward to that, especially match day 2, because I think you probably compare this episode to NFL match day, NFL week 2, when everyone overreacts to what happens in week 1. So that means probably before even looking at numbers, I have looked at them before the World Cup kicked off. I've logged them, and so we can compare and contrast and all those sort of things. I made new numbers based on what I saw from match day 1, and I pretty much saw every match besides, I guess, Germany, Curacao, and unfortunately, I didn't get much of Cote d'Ivoire and Ecuador. But all that said, it's time to find some money to make, so let's get into it, and we'll start on the 18th of June, as it's already past midnight here in Dallas, Texas. I'm at the real _ G Warner across all social media platforms, Betting the Pitch, Apple Podcasts, and on Spotify. If you want my Patreon, patreon.com, it's just a real _ G Warner. Best way to get all my plays across all sports. You get a buzz if you download the application, turn on notifications, you get a buzz every time I lock something in. Okay. So now I'm going to bring up the numbers, and anyone live, feel free to let us know if the audio goes out because I don't want to have to re-record this. Let's hope. Let's cross our fingers. So we'll start on Thursday, June 18th, and we'll start in the early match. It's 11 a.m. Central Time, so noon Eastern Time, and that is the Czech Republic and South Africa. Initial number, I actually had the South Africa, a half a goal underdog, total at 2.5 or so. Initial numbers, we saw a quarter, we also saw a half, and 2.25 was generally the total. I've bumped my number up to South Africa, 3/4 goal underdog, probably a lot based on their performance and the red cards they sustained in match day 1 at the Estadio Azteca in Mexico City. Total I have a 2.4. I guess I'm just opening the Komodo, as one of my colleagues used to say, which is gross, but whatever. Current numbers. So Czech Republic are a half a goal favorite with all the juice right now, or 15 to the 16 cents bet online. Total in this one is 2.5, and it's juiced very heavily to under. So you could argue it's between 2.25 and 2.5. So not really a huge adjustment from match day 1, look ahead lines, if you will, before match day 1 was played. Czech Republic were in good position, had a goal, alternated goals with South Korea, and then took a lead, had a goal ruled out for offside, and then conceded and ended up losing. And that puts them behind the 8 ball. South Africa had 2 men sent off, also lost their first round. And the nice part is both these teams are not dead yet because I think 8 of the 12 third places can move through, but this is desperate. And I would expect late in matches, I guess you accept a draw because if you win your final match day, then you can get to 4 points, and that should put you through. But I think there will be some desperation here. At least we'll see if that occurs. Biggest interest for me is the Czech Republic are giants. South Africa has really not shown they can score goals in any competition, whether it's AFCON in January or for years and years and years, it feels to me. So I think for my interest in this one, I think strongest is the under 2.5 and 2.25 if it falls there. And I feel like I'm going to sneeze. So I apologize to anyone in advance, but this is what happens when you go to Mexico and you get Montezuma's revenge and whatever that has come after that. I know, TMI. Next, go to Switzerland and Bosnia-Herzegovina. So Bosnia took a lead against Canada on the road in Toronto. I thought outplayed them, played Bosnia and under. Both were winners. Deserved better, I thought, because Canada honestly have no idea what they're doing, and eventually got bailed out by Kyle Aaron, who seems to always score for them, but couldn't start him because you got to start the guy who plays for Juventus. On the Switzerland side, they had a lead, kind of played with their food a while, and then conceded to Qatar late, ended up escaping with a draw, or disappointingly leaving with a draw. And so this is a big matchup for them, especially because they're a huge favorite to win this group. I had seen Bosnia 1-goal underdog, and it looks like I barely increased their, or I didn't increase. I had them between 3/4. basically had a 3/4 goal underdog. So a little bit more bullish on Bosnia and Herzegovina than the marketplace has been. In terms of the total, I had it at 2.25, and I bumped that up to 2.5. So we'll see where we sit now. So Bosnia, 1 goal underdog. I still really like that. With most of the juice right now, 13 of the 16 cents. As for the total, 2.5, juice very heavily to under. So that kind of follows my line of thinking. It's gotten a little bit cheaper since late moves before Matchday 1 kicked off. But I don't really see a reason to avoid Bosnia and under, lose by a single goal, 1-0. Then you end up winning half of a bet, pushing the other half, escaping with profit. And that's what I'm searching for. 2-0 Switzerland possible. I just don't think that Bosnia are going to score much. So I think unders are always valuable with them. And I think they defend fairly well. But they have enough in their tank. They're very big. And I don't think Switzerland can use any sort of size advantage against Bosnia. So certainly lean to both side and total in that matchup. And we'll move next to Canada and Qatar. Initially, I had Qatar 3/4 goal underdog. And we saw totals saw side at 1.5. Total I had around 2.25 was 2.5. And I've bumped those up. Actually make Qatar. I've got a lot more respect for Qatar after Switzerland draw, so I don't want to overreact. But number has not moved at all. It's actually gotten more expensive on Canada. 1.5 goal favorites. I mean, what Canada did they watch? I'm sorry. And this might even climb to 1.75. Yes, Qatar wasn't given much chance. They haven't looked very good. But who are they playing again? And are we suddenly going to think that Canadian crowd has no idea what it's doing for soccer-related things, that they're all suddenly going to change? I mean, we're up to 1.75 minus 125 at BetOnline. So to me, it's not pretty to back the Qataris, especially on the road. And after, you could argue, escaping with a draw. But I think that adds confidence. And we've seen that they can play with a much better team than Canada, even though Canada's at home. But I don't think Canada matters. So I'll lean to the Qataris and to under 2.75 in that 5 p.m. Central Time kickoff. Last of the day on Thursday, June 18th, and that is Mexico and South Korea. I believe in Guadalajara, in the hometown of a friend of mine, Monchis, and also Javier Chitorito Hernandez. As I guess it always happens. The iPad that's showing some baseball in the background seems to always crash during this episode. And apologies if anyone sees me blow my nose or whatever, because it's been a rough go over here. In terms of the spread, Korea, I made a 1/4 goal underdog, climbed, and then a 2.5 total. We saw Korea 1/2 goal underdog with a smaller 2.25 goal total. So it seems like the market was a little bit lower on Korea than a lot because of the Mexico home crowd, I would assume. I bumped my number to Korea a 1/2 goal underdog. I didn't look at the lines to remember them. And that is currently the number with a lot of juice on South Korea, minus 122 at BetOnline, plus 106 coming back on Mexico. So it's probably hanging between 1/2 and 1/4. Total in this one right now is 2.25. And it is juiced very heavily, minus 124 to under. What that tells me, as I pick up the iPad, sorry. What that tells me is, I mean, South Korea and Mexico are in great position on 3 points. So I'm sure they're probably pretty pleased where they're at. And I don't really see that meaning they're going to change their strategy, because they're probably a point away from advancing. I think 4 points is almost not guaranteed, but it's a pretty safe bet that you're going through. So with all that said, I think there's, to me, I'm not really a believer in this Mexican side. Of course, they're going to be playing at home with a country that's been going nuts for this World Cup. And I've just been there in Mexico City and Monterrey. So I can tell you firsthand that this crowd advantage is going to matter. And that's probably why I bumped Korea to a bigger underdog when I just made numbers as the Uzbekistan match was ending. From a Mexico perspective, they want to win every match. They want to win this entire tournament. That's what they believe, even though they don't have the talent to do it. So for that reason, I expect a lot of Mexico money to come in, whether it's Mexicans themselves or just the fact they're playing at home. And I think the Koreans are the perfect team to frustrate anybody they play, basically. So for me, I'm interested in Korea getting 1/2 goal. It's not a lot of protection, but I think a draw is very possible. And I think late in the game, both will play to that, so they can pretty much look like they're advancing. And can't be caught since both the other teams lost in their group in the first match day. And the total, I think I like South Korea probably more to the under because I don't know that I trust them as much to score goals, especially in Mexico against a really tough crowd. But Mexico is not perfect, and Cesar Montes, their defender, being suspended is not great. I got to say, it's a big loss, I think. So that is Thursday, June 18th. Let's make sure that in case anyone's live with us late night with the real_G Warner, I want to make sure the audio is good. No complaints so far. So let's keep going. We'll now move to the United States of America. They are taking on Australia at a really early start, which is, I think, in Seattle. So that's going to be bizarre. And temperatures should be pretty good. I imagine that's why the U.S. men's national team is playing out west, set up camp out west, all those things out west. Though it's pretty close to Australia, relatively. It's not that close, I guess. In terms of the numbers, so I had Australia as a 3/4 goal underdog. They opened as about 3/4, and then I remade them as a much bigger over a goal underdog. Totals initially I had 2.5, open 2.25 or 2.5, and then I made them 2 3/4. A lot because I think the U.S. scored a ton of goals in their opener against Paraguay, who I expected just to really grit and bear it and defend. Austria currently are a 1-goal underdog, minus 124, and the total in this one is 2.5. Juice more to the under, minus 113, 13 of the 16 cents. So I, of course, root for the United States because I am American. If anyone had any doubts, you might. But I'm not really a huge believer. Yes, they were awesome in the opener, but Paraguay were also a fraud, I think. And can we really trust Fuller and Balogun to continue to produce at that level? I don't think so, but it was great. And the injury to Christian Pulisic is a concern as well. So we want to see what that lineup looks like. If he can play, he's playing because they need to win the group, and that will be important for them. But Australia drawing is a big deal. Nope, they won. They beat Turkey. So, I mean, this is two teams with 3 points, similar to the Mexico-South Korea series we just talked about, or match we just talked about. So both are in great position to move through. Apologies for getting a little confused on who was where. As for leans in this one, I love full goals of insurance, especially when I didn't make it that high. I did the second time I made this number, so I guess it's a little bit unfortunate. And I did like the U.S. under because I still think their defense is much stronger than their offense. The U.S. should be able to dictate this game. Australia is, to me, not impressive. It's amazing they beat Turkey, but that's what happens when Turkey gets into big competitions, I think. At least not the Euros. They've been bad in that too. We'll move next to Scotland and Morocco. Morocco, with a great draw against Brazil, now puts them in great position to potentially win the group. Scotland with a great win against 80, but I don't really know if that's that impressive. With all that said, I had Scotland a 1/4 goal underdog with a total between 2.25 and 2.5, and it looks like they opened a 1/4 goal underdog with a total at 2 or 2.25, so right around 2.25. Pretty expensive, but there we go. Reissued this number as Scotland a 1/2 goal underdog and total at 2.25. Let's see. So Scotland, they're looking like a 3/4 goal underdog right now. And the total is 2.25, juiced pretty heavily to under. As you would expect, there's been a ton of overs lately, and I imagine betting market will reflect that sooner rather than later. I don't believe in Scotland's offense. Yes, they got a goal against Haiti, John McGinn, of course, but I think they're going to try to fend like crazy, and that's really Morocco's game. So I think we see a low-scoring game here, so I'm very interested in under 2.25. This is a 5 p.m. start on Friday on a holiday here in the United States, so good for us. Market's closed, thank God. And I guess I lean to Scotland, but I think that's a lot because I don't really trust the Morocco offense, even though they got the opener against Brazil. We'll next move to Brazil and Haiti, as already mentioned. Initially, I had this at 3.25 and 4.5. It was opened at 3, 3.25, and 4. And then rebuilt this at 2 and 3.25. So I've been all over the place, and I don't know if that's just too anti-Brazil. They're 2.5 goal favorite right now, with a little bit more juice on Brazil. You could argue they're a home team because there's a lot of fans. 3.5 is the total, juiced very heavily to over. So I don't trust Brazil. I played Morocco and under, which reflects how I feel. If there's ever a time for them to get right, I don't really like to think that, it's going to come today when they finally figure it out. But this should be a walkover, and that makes me very concerned with any sort of interest in Haiti, I got to say. Last game on Friday is Turkey and Paraguay. I had initially made Paraguay a big underdog. They ended up opening a quarter goal. Total was 2 3/4 for me, and 2 1/4 was the actual number. Let's see where they're at now. When I remade this, I still made Paraguay a much bigger underdog, about half a goal, and total 2 3/4. Now Paraguay are half a goal underdog, but with a lot of juice. So it's climbed from a quarter. Clearly, that performance against the United States was not good. Total is 2.5 here, just very heavily to under, so more like a 2 1/4 probably. And we have a pretty juiced 2 1/4 to the over. So I'll use that as the number here. This is a must win for both of them. Turkey, I mean, incredible that they controlled the game the whole time. Started the wrong lineup, but Montella does that, I guess. And I would expect everyone to be in that lineup for this one, and Paraguay are going to be in trouble. Thing is Paraguay are going to try to counterattack, and that worked for Australia, who are not good either. And Turkey really have a lot to prove. So the bigger they are as a favorite, the more interested I am in backing Paraguay. That might be my bigger interest, though I do worry about the talent that Paraguay just can't match, to be frank. Next, we'll go to Saturday. We'll start with the Netherlands and Sweden. Initially, I had this at about 3/4 goal underdog, and that's where it was. Total, I had it above 3, which was actually 2.5. So I was way off there. I adjusted this to Sweden, a slight underdog, and the total at 3. So currently, the total is 2.5, which is very low to me. Just, I guess no one's really budging off of that number. It is juiced 12 of the 16 cents to over. As for Sweden, they are currently a 3/4 goal underdog. So that doesn't move much. -108 both ways, so no real tell. I guess we've seen a little bit of money come in on Sweden because they were good. I was there live for the match in Monterrey, and they were pretty dominant, though it was a pretty bad Tunisian team that didn't really have much of a threat. Still scored them, which makes me concerned definitely about Netherlands being able to pierce through Sweden. With that said, Sweden's got, as they were talking about on Fox, I don't love to quote American sports shows, but especially soccer ones. But having Isak and Gyökeres up the top is a really tough matchup. So Netherlands have kind of disappointed for me in a lot of their scenarios and tournament settings. So honestly, Sweden is a 3/4 underdog. Looks big enough for me to want to get involved in an early one on Saturday. I don't know that I want to necessarily play under. We saw Netherlands score a lot. Sweden obviously did. Could see a high scoring game, which is not great for underplays, but I think I'm interested there. Next, go to Germany and Ivory Coast. I had made the Côte d'Ivoire a 3/4 goal underdog, and they were +1 last time. I made the total near 3. It was 2.5 or 2 3/4. So it's a little off there. We're now back. Same price actually as before. Côte d'Ivoire, a 1-goal underdog, -108 both ways. And that's actually the last number I have in my Excel spreadsheet. Total in this one is 2 3/4. She's very heavily to over right now. And that shows me that there's a lot of belief in goals being scored. Probably because Germany scored a lot in their opener, but they faced a team that was like not World Cup quality in Curacao. The higher this total gets, the more interested I am in Ivory Coast. Certainly Germany wants to score goals. They don't really care about, I guess they care about defending, but it's usually the German gegenpressing that they use, that Ralf Rangnick uses at Austria, and Nagelsmann is a disciple of Red Bull Leipzig and coach there, all that sort of stuff. I think at 3, I'm more interested in the under. And at this point, +1, I do like the Côte d'Ivoire. Both teams on 3 points, both in great shape to advance. And Les Elephants are actually very talented, so I wouldn't really turn my nose up to them, or my snout. Beak? No, not a beak. Trunk. There we go. Next, go to Ecuador and Curacao. Curacao, I made a 2-goal underdog. They're only 1 3/4 from what I saw. 2 3/4 of the total, about what I made it initially. I bumped that to Curacao bigger, above 2-goal underdog, and the total at 3.14. So we basically got a pie out there. Current spread is 2.5 minus 108 both ways. Excuse me. And the total is 3.25. Juiced more to the over. So I don't know that Curacao can compete here. So I don't really think I have anything I want to get involved with because I really don't believe in them. And that's why I didn't touch their game initially. And yeah, they equalized at 1-1, but how much does that really do for you? So I think that's probably one we can let go, though clearly there's been a lot of distrust for the Curacao side, and they're much bigger underdog to a team that really struggles to score, in my opinion. To the 11 p.m. start, the Hawaii San Jose State equivalent of the World Cup, Tunisia and Japan. I guess certainly that'll fit the Japanese audiences. They can go straight from Shohei Ohtani, likely on Saturday, to Japan. Tunisia, I initially had a half a goal underdog, total at 2.5 or so. Looked like their total was 2.25, but their spread was 3/4 a goal, so a little less belief in the Tunisian offense. I've bumped that to 3/4 goal underdogs on Tunisia, and the total to near 3. And they've sacked their manager, so we'll see how that all goes because they gave up a ton of goals. Now Tunisia, I've climbed to a 1-goal underdog, which I think that reaction is expected. The total in this one is 2.25, and it's choose minus 108 both ways, which doesn't make any sense to me. So basically, the market is saying that Japan's going to dominate this game. They're likely to win by more than was expected, and there's going to be less goals scored, which I think is a huge slight for the Tunisian offense. I don't really know where their goals come from, and their defense has looked pretty average, and that's a problem as well. Okay, now that gets us through Saturday. I guess I didn't give any leans. I am probably not getting involved with Tunisia with a new manager and such. I do like the full goal of insurance. It's bigger than I made it, so I'll put that on my list. And the total, I don't know that I got much on that one, I got to say. But we'll figure it out at some point, I guess. Okay, now we'll move to the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia and Spain. This is Sunday kickoff, 11 a.m. Central Time, noon Eastern Time. I had made this 1.75. It was 2.25, and I since made it 2.5. And my initial total was 3.5. It was 3.25 last I saw, and I made this number much higher because I expect response from Spain. That probably seems a little bit foolish to me at this point, but we'll see. Currently, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, 2.5 goal underdogs as I expected, minus 111 on the Saudis. The total in this one is 3.25, and it's just minus 108 both ways. That's smaller than I made it, but certainly reflects more interest in the over than was initially there. I don't know that I believe in the Saudis. I think Spain was a clear pick to most likely to win the World Cup heading into it. And I imagine they figure out things. And Cape Verde is a great defensive team, and they've shown that in AFCON. I didn't think they could show it on this stage, but they have. And the Saudis, I don't think, are at the same level despite their result against Uruguay. Well, next, I guess in terms of interest, maybe an under, but that's a stretch, I think, at this point. Next, we'll go to Belgium and Iran. I had Iran near a 1-goal underdog. Looked like they were 1.25 before kickoff of Matchday 1. I made the total 3. It was 2.5, so a little bit smaller than I expected. In terms of the total, we now have 2.5, looks like the number still, but more money has come in on over based on the juice chains. In terms of the side, we have Belgium, a 1.25 goal favorite to Iran, which is about, so not really a ton of movement. Iran getting a point, Belgium getting a point. So this group is off to a great, very competitive start, and I'm looking forward to seeing what happens. In terms of what I'd like to play, I don't really trust Iran to score, so I think my interest, especially as a big underdog, is to them keep this as low scoring as possible. Smaller than I made it, though. I'd love to get a 3. I don't think we'll get that, though, by kickoff, 2 p.m. Central Time on Sunday. I think I muted that correctly. Hopefully so. Ooh, okay. Paul Weaver 6, thank you for coming in. Hello. I'll jump into some of your chats so far. Kind of like Sweden to beat the Netherlands. I don't hate it, and they're a big underdog. Ivory Coast to get a draw or better against Germany wouldn't surprise me either. I think we might be a little bit underselling the Germans, but I don't see it. I don't really have a disagreement with that. And it's another big number, which is really what it's about. So long as we can avoid the stoppage time, last kick of the game goals. Japan kind of played badly against Netherlands, and to me, they're going to struggle against sides with height in the later rounds. I agree, but they also got their equalizer by just spamming crosses into the box and got a header that eventually scored. I don't think that's going to really sit perfectly for them, but they are, to me, in a really good position. And I don't know that Tunisia, I mean, I saw them live. They didn't seem super tall to me. I just don't know that they're great either. Let me know, Paul, if any of the sound is an issue. It seems like we're going well so far. So let's go back to the next match. We'll go to Uruguay and Cape Verde. So this is a big shock. Everyone was talking about Cape Verde. And I initially had Cape Verde at 2.25 goal underdog, total above 3, opened 1 and 2.5. So I've been way off, as I think the whole market has, considering how many people were betting Spain. Right now, Cape Verde are 1 goal underdog to Uruguay. Certainly Uruguay's poor draw was not great. A little bit more juice on Uruguay. They did fall behind and got a point, so that's something, but not that impressive, I think, by their lofty standards. In terms of the total in this matchup, and that's, I think, where everyone probably will think, is 2.25, and it's used very heavily to under. Now, that's a lot lower than I made it, clearly. But when Cape Verde keeps a clean sheet against Spain, that certainly will happen. I'll lean to under there. I lean to the side a little bit, but I don't think they can score. And so really, are you betting on 2 clean sheets in a row? We could be. To the last game on Sunday, and that is New Zealand and Egypt, as I wear a Mo Salah kit. Big winners on Egypt in the first round, and let's keep doing more of that. Probably more to come later when they're not a favorite. As I made New Zealand a 3/4 goal underdog, total at 2.5. We saw total at 2.25 and a 3/4 goal underdog. So we'll now move to current numbers, or number I made a few minutes ago. Made it between 1/2 and 3/4, and the total I made 2.5. So not a big adjustment there. Currently seeing New Zealand about a 3/4 goal underdog, even money. So heading towards a full goal of insurance, which I think reflects how well Egypt played against Belgium. But I do want to caution everyone from overreacting to how well teams played in their first matchup, though certainly some showed who they are. Total this one's 2.25 again, but it's more juice to the over. I think that's a lot based on how many goals have been scored recently. At +1, I'm more interested in New Zealand because I don't really trust a ton of goals from Egypt. I think they're much better, but I think New Zealand's going to do their best, and I don't think they're going to score as much as they did because they're not going to play as open of a game against Egypt because Egypt doesn't allow that. Lean probably biggest interest is the under 2.25, and we'll move to Monday. Before we get there, I want to shout out my Patreon, patreon.com/real_GWarner. Best spot to get all my plays, leans, write-ups across all sports. Make sure you get in on that as soon as you can. Best way to get everything, download the app, turn on notifications, and you get a buzz every time I lock something in. Make sure you get the prices. That's the way to do it. And then let's get back into... Thank you, Paul. You're good, bro. I got you. I appreciate that. Any audio issues, because I don't want to record it again because I need sleep because you can hear it in my voice. Now to Monday. We'll start with Argentina and Austria, which is an incredible opener game, I got to say. I think it's in Dallas. Of course, can't make it because I have to effing work. And part of me wants to just quit, but I can't do that yet. Anyway, Austria, I made about a 3/4 goal underdog, total about 3 from before everything kicked off. They opened about a 3/4 goal underdog from when I first saw it, but the total was 2.5, so much lower expected goals. When I rebuilt it, Austria about a 3/4 goal underdog again, but I made the total higher, and I think it reflects how well Messi played, and now Austria are 1 goal underdog. And I think it's going to be a different game because Messi should have been red carded, but that's a whole nother story. Total still 2.5, and it's actually seen a little bit of over money coming in, but it's still much lower than I expected. And the real question is how will the gegenpress of Ralf Rangnick, who I've already mentioned, how that will do, because it gave up a lot of opportunities to Iraq. No, not Iraq, to whoever the heck they played, to who gave up a late goal that was really, really bad. That was Jordan. So you don't want to do that with the Argentines, put it that way. I do like a full go of insurance, though, in Austria, who I think are really talented. They don't really have the names, but the strategy works. And I think they could do a fairly good job of pinning Argentina in their own end using that counter press. And they're going to be playing indoors in Dallas, air conditioned, and that's going to help them with their stamina for sure. Even if there's going to be a million Argentine fans or Argentines in general. To the next matchup, we'll go to 4 p.m. Central Time, 5 p.m. Eastern Time. That's France and Iraq. One another brutal, 3 goals, I think it was, in stoppage time that killed under and the Senegal side. Senegal first busted the under themselves scoring. Looked like it was going to be a 2-0 split for France. And then Mbappe just does what he does to me. But Iraq were, I thought, fairly competitive, but just had some big mistakes against Norway. Their goalkeeper literally kicking the ball off Erling Haaland to score in his own net was not great. And there's plenty of other issues. And I don't really see, even though I'm not a believer in France, I just don't see Iraq really competing here. So that might make this quick. I made Iraq a 2.5 underdog before tournament, 3.5 of the total. We saw 2.5 and 3. So not any belief in the Iraq offense. In terms of where this has moved, currently Iraq at 2.5 goal underdog with a lot of juice on France. The total in this one is 3.5, and it's juiced more to the under, which is probably reasonable, but I don't have much of a belief or want to get involved in that one unless I was saying under, but I don't know that Iraq will compete, and that's when unders go out the window. To Monday night, we have Norway and Senegal, a great matchup. Honestly, two teams that I think could go neck and neck for group runner-up, and this will decide it. Senegal, I thought, were just as good as France, but a couple mistakes, and they were just really France remembering who they were and their talent. That was the difference. Norway is new to this world, and they're not, in my opinion, experienced with it. So we'll see how this goes. But I got to say, I really think Norway has been overvalued this entire time. Let's see. I made Norway a slight underdog and total at 3 initially. I then remade this Senegal underdog and the total about 2 3/4. So let's see where we're at. Imagine Norway will be favored. Total is 2.5, and it is juiced very heavily to under, which is certainly the Senegal way of playing much more than Norway, who wants to score a ton of goals. I got Norway a quarter goal underdog, right? Norway a quarter goal favorite right now, plus 102. So the odds are an underdog. I guess that's what tripped me up initially. Minus 118, so 18 of the 16 cents. So very juiced Senegal plus 1/4, but that's the way I lean currently. And I think it's a great position for them to get on board and really cause some problems for Norway, especially with Norway as a favorite. I have some interest in the under, but it's lower than I made it. I think I want a 3, so I don't know that I'm really going to even put it on the list. We'll now move to nightcap on Monday, and that is Jordan and Algeria. Initially, I had Jordan's total at 2 1/4 in this one, side at about 3/4. They were 3/4 or 1, and the total is 2.5. I've adjusted that, really just pushed the total up to a much higher number. And currently, Jordan are 1 goal underdog. I think a lot because Algeria were great. Messi gets sent off the first half as he should have, and I think things would do a lot different, but that did not happen because he gets protected more than anybody, but I'll let that go eventually, maybe by August. Total's 2.5 in this one, juice more to the under, and it's a lot lower than I made it. I think that reflects Jordan maybe turning back into a defensive team. They were more aggressive offensively than I expected. I do expect Algeria to control this game, and I don't think these teams know each other very well. So, because they play in different continents, Africa and Asia. And I do think Algeria are much better, but we'll see where this goes. I think bigger interest for me is probably under here, though it's smaller than I guess second chance made it. But that doesn't necessarily bother me too much, I don't think. So I'll put that on my list for the under. And I guess I do like the +1 because it's not what I had initially. So that does interest me too. And let's check the comments. All right, more people coming in. Thank you coming in. Paul, yes, Austria versus Argentina should be a great game. I agree. And I think, honestly, Argentina has looked really, really weak despite winning the last World Cup, despite beating Algeria 3-0. A lot were just messy, incredible finishes, and that's what he's done. And I don't know that I see that happening forever and ever and ever. We now move to Tuesday. Let me get my dates right. No idea what that day is, but we'll see. We'll start with, and so yeah, and then Wednesday we start over. So this is the last match day, and then I'll, I guess, summarize and then give a best bet. End of show, as you are used to with the ultimate best bet. Got to get it on track. Coming up soon. So Portugal, Uzbekistan. Portugal, I initially made a 2.5 goal favorite. Total's 3.5. We saw spread below 2, but total at 3. Remade it at Uzbekistan 2.25 goal underdogs. The total at 3.5. I think that reflects Uzbekistan getting pretty much dominated by Colombia, but still having a chance late. Current total is 3, juiced very heavily to under. It's just bet a little bit more to under, which is a little bit surprising me, but maybe due to Portugal's lack of goals today. Spread I see at 2 minus 132. So that's very juiced right now. 1.75 plus 104. So it's kind of in between those numbers. I imagine Portugal money will be coming in, so I'll project that as to close 2. I don't know I want anything to do with that one. I was really close to betting the Congo today, but I didn't do it. And it's easy to say it afterwards. Probably not much for me to do in that noon game, I must say. We'll next go to the Tuesday, 3 p.m. England, I guess, always plays the 3 p.m. game, 4 p.m. Eastern time, probably so that everyone's going to watch it across the pond because we know their ratings are good. Initially, I had gone a 3/4 goal underdog, total about 3. We saw 1.25 up to 1.5 with a total of 2.75. I came back with Ghana plus 1.5 and total at just above 3. And that Ghana comeback victory was just really disheartening today. Total in this, the spread is 1.75. England with all the juice, so even money on Ghana. I expect that to hit 2, and I'm interested in that occurring. I think Ghana have a limited offense, to say the least, so we didn't see any of it today. But I do think they can limit England, and they will not play as foolishly and as openly as the Croatians played today. And they were just, in my opinion, just stupid. From a total perspective, it looks like 2.75 is used very heavily to over, so I would expect a 3. Can I find a number on 3? You probably don't want that out there because they don't want a bunch of money that's going to push. But plus 112 to under, that's probably another interest for me, and that goes along with the Ghana lean. It's just don't want to get in front of that England train, and that's a big concern. I do trust their defense a fair amount, and I expect Jordan Pickford to be better. Next, we'll go to Panama and Croatia. I initially made Panama a 1 goal underdog, total near 3. Looks like they were adjusted to 1.25 near 3, and we saw them as a 1 goal underdog with total at 2.5. So let's see what comes out here. So about the same price, Panama a 1 goal underdog to Croatia. Jeez. Total is 2.5, just very heavily to under, which is basically the same number. So I'm kind of surprised on why that occurred, I got to say. Did we not watch what happened with Croatia today? I guess they're going to dominate this game as they should, but they didn't possess the ball at all. I guess they did possess the ball a fair amount against England, but they conceded so many big chances. And Livakovic was awesome. I don't really know how Panama's ever going to see the ball in this game, so that's going to make them very tired. Probably only interest for me in that 6 p.m. start on Tuesday is under 2.5. I don't know that I want much to do with Panama to force them to score goals. Last but not least, Colombia and the Democratic Republic of the Congo, which is a big deal for me because I've got DRC to advance, and that draw was huge today. I initially made the Congo about a 0.5 goal underdog, total 2.5. We saw full goal of insurance coming because everyone loves Colombia. Total 2.25, and then I remade it to the DRC about a 1.25 goal underdog, between 1 and 1.25, and the total at 2.75. So I upped that quite a bit based on the Colombia love, I think, subconsciously. Right now, it looks like Colombia is a 1 goal favorite with all the juice. So give me that 1.25. No real change, despite, to me, two teams looking very different. One, Congo looking good, though I guess I might be a little biased. Total has fallen to 2.25, minus 104. So we've gotten some more over money. I imagine we might see 2.5 before this kicks off. I was not very impressed with Colombia. I've not been for a while. I don't really believe in their offense either. So this is a 9 p.m. start. I don't know if it's in Mexico City, but wherever Congo's playing, I'm paying attention clearly. Like if they climb above a goal underdog, and I don't think their defense is a mirage. We've seen it in the AFCON. We've seen it in Africa Cup qualifying, World Cup qualifying. They knocked out Nigeria. I think Cameroon as well, and had to fight a playoff to get in here. This team is chiseled, and I don't think anyone believes in them. And so if I have to be the only one, I guess I'll do it. And good luck to them with what they're dealing with over there with the Ebola outbreak. Yikes. Let's see. Before I go through the entire recap, let's see. Paul Weaver, one more comment. They're never going to send off Messi in a World Cup game. It would be like ejecting Michael Jordan in an NBA Finals game. I agree with that, but the rules are the when I play with the microphone cord, unfortunately, that's when it seems to go negative, mute us. So I'm not going to do that anymore because no one can see it. So who cares? But to Paul Weaver 6's comment, I've seen a foot on the back of the calf near the knee. That's a red card all the time. And to not even get Messi carded shows how much he's protected, and it's disgusting. But he ended up scoring 2 more goals, losing the side and the total for us. So that was a big deal. And I look forward to some sort of refereeing committee coming out and apologizing. Probably won't happen. And I'd like some capable refereeing because it hasn't been that way so far this tournament. So let's go through, summarize our favorites, and then get with a best bet coming up. End of show. We're at the end of show, so you've made it 40 or so minutes in. So on the 18th, let's start at the top. In Czech Republic and South Africa, I do like an under here. I think the big question is how much can South Africa sustain the red card issues. Let's now go back to Switzerland and Bosnia. I like Bosnians and under. Canada, Qatar, another. Qataris and under. Probably like Qataris more. Mexico and South Korea, like Korea and the under. On the 19th, Friday, Juneteenth here in the United States. Australia, I'm interested in them as a full goal underdog. I'd like to have a little more faith in the total. I want to see how much it climbs. 2.5 is interesting, though. I forgot to put that on my list of potentials. Scotland, Morocco should be a very tough matchup. Under 2.25 is probably my biggest interest there. Scotland, I just really question their offense, but I also question Morocco's as well. Haiti and Brazil, let's skip. Turkey and Paraguay, I mean, does Turkey wake up here? Like I said earlier, I don't really trust them too. Same with Brazil. Paraguay are bad, but Turkey have been really, really poor themselves. So they're a much smaller underdog than I was expecting, though, and that's something I need to think about. Moving to Saturday, Netherlands and Sweden. Big underdogs are Sweden. I wasn't really a believer coming to the tournament. The marketplace was, and it doesn't hurt me to go get the Netherlands, especially as a bigger favorite than I think they should be. I like the Ivory Coast against Germany, but that is asking a lot. Ecuador and Curacao, maybe under, but probably not. Tunisia and Japan, skip. Spain and Saudi Arabia. Spain's got to get right here, right? That's what everyone's going to bet. Under looks interesting to me there. Belgium and Iran, I think we see a low-scoring game, especially after Iran played Sunday football on Sunday or Monday. Uruguay and Cape Verde. Let's see if Cape Verde can keep this low-scoring again. That should be their MO. Total is tiny. I think it reflects that. New Zealand and Egypt. I think the New Zealanders, the Kiwis, were much better against Iran, but might have been Iran hadn't played any sort of meaningful football for a while. Egypt's going to be a really tough matchup for them. I'm curious to see Egypt dominating games and scoring a ton of goals because we haven't seen that in a while. Argentina, Austria, I do like Austria a fair amount. Don't know that I want to play the total under because that could get ugly. And I don't want to lose twice in the same matchup if the gegenpress doesn't work. France, Iraq, skip. Norway and Senegal, I think Senegal are worth looking at as quarter goal underdog on Monday. Probably more interested there than the total. Jordan, Algeria. I think we see a low-scoring game there. Uzbekistan, Portugal. I just don't know if I can trust the Uzbeks. Ghana and England, hard to fade England. Panama and Croatia. Panama, what a heartbreaking loss today. And not just for me, but for those players for sure. The Surrender Cobras holding the head as they conceded in the 95th minute with 1 extra minute to go. Ridiculous. Trying to get the win, but ended up giving up the loss, and that's brutal for us and them too. Lean to fading Croatia, but I don't really know the setup I want for that. And last but not least, Congo DR, I think they can play very competitively with Colombia, and they're big underdogs, going to lean that way as well. Now it's time for the ultimate best bet. Before we get there, if you could leave a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts and on Spotify called Betting the Pitch, YouTube at @the_real_G_Warner, Instagram at @the_real_G_Warner. We're trying to build those followings as much as possible, get as much content out there as we can. The ultimate best bet will go there. I appreciate it. I guess I should check to see if anyone else is coming in. No more comments, but thank you to those of you here live, late night, almost 1 in the morning. Appreciate that. For my best bet, the ultimate best bet on this episode, we're going to go early in match day 2 of the 2026 World Cup. Without further ado, let's go with the Scotland-Morocco under 2.25 goals. It's my best bet on this episode. We're 0-1 so far, looking to get back to even and trying to follow up on a 60% Qatar 2022 tournament, trying to keep that going as long as possible. Thank you all for coming in. Put this on all the social channels. Hit the subscribe button, leave 5-star reviews, comments, all those sort of things. I'll see you in the next episode for Match Day 3.